Hello, Cindy here. Hope you guys are doing amazing. Today we're going to talk about texting and how not to let texting kill or ruin your love life. First question I have for you, how many of you guys have had a miscommunication via text or email? If you have, put a thumbs up in the comment section. I know I have. So I'm excited to talk to you about this because texting has some really great benefits. I mean, first, what's great about it is, yes, you can have some fun flirtation. You can, really feel like you're connecting through text message. And sometimes it serves as a disconnect also, especially for women and men too, really. It can serve as a way to feel confused about the nature of your relationship, the nature of your dating relationship on or off. Sorry, you guys, I'm tongue-tied today, but that's why you should text so that you don't get tongue-tied. No, I'm kidding. So texting, my personal opinion about texting is, yes, it can be fun. It can be flirtation. It's also a means to things. I like what you said, Marty. It's efficient but impersonal, for sure. It's a means for, hey, I'm excited to see you tomorrow, or, I'm here. It's meant for things like that. I feel like texting, I'm going to start with actually talking about texting from the standpoint of the pitfalls and what it can do, and from the positive ways to use it. And I'm going to give you some tools as that will support you in how to utilize text messaging to your advantage. Would that be helpful? Give me a thumbs up for yes. And if you're watching the replay on this, I would love to hear your thumbs up, your questions, your comments about this. And, know that if you're feeling called to share anything or a situation that's come up for you and you're afraid to do so, what I encourage you to do is be vulnerable and transparent, because something that you say will inevitably support and help someone else. Okay, so moving forward on the pitfalls of text messaging. Again, if you don't know who I am, I'm Cindy Olin. Create Your Own Luck and Love is my company, and I support women around attracting and connecting with a love, a partnership that's really resonating to them and their hearts, and supporting them around their emotional triggers, communication, understanding men, all that good stuff. So back to texting. So the texting, way back in history, women and men used to write letters to each other. They would write, love letters to each other when, a man was off in battle. And, that was their way of connecting. That was their way of expressing love to one another. And oftentimes what would happen is, we can create a fantasy in our brains as to what that relationship may or may not be. And, it can be effective too, in the sense of fostering connection. So modern day, texting has been utilized much the same way. There are some people that use texting as a way of forming a relationship, as a way of expressing deep feelings towards someone, and that can be what I call fantasy, a fantasy relationship, a desire to have a real connection with someone, but you're only really messaging through, it could be Facebook Messenger or even text messaging. I've worked with women that have, developed relationships and developed deep feelings for someone based on what they've experienced through messaging, maybe even before they've ever spoken with someone on the phone. And that can be really dangerous because if you've been in a place where you haven't connected much, or you're almost starving for love, you're setting yourself up for real true disappointment. You're setting yourself up to not meet the expectations in our brains, because we can never meet those expectations of a picture that we paint for ourselves. So that's something to watch out for, texting too much. Now, how many of you guys have, met somebody new and you're excited, and maybe you're texting quite a bit throughout the day and it's fun? There's a flirtation there. There's a tension that's building between you guys. That is fun and amazing, and it's not sustainable long term, ladies. I want you to hear that. And many men can attest to this too. It's just, once you're at a certain point, once you're in a rhythm, when you're dating someone or you're in the relationship mode, then what happens is there's kind of a comfort level. Maybe you guys check in once or twice a day, or you don't, or you talk on the phone, or you plan to meet. So, when it comes to texting, I'm going to give you some recommendations that I have around that. One, don't make your text messages longer than your thumbnail. Now, some of you might have longer thumbnails than others, but use your discretion around that. It's not meant to have deep conversation. And if you need to ask a question that is of relevance to you, if you're making a plan and you want to have clear, concise communication, then you want to pick up the phone. And, I teach women around letting a man lead. And when you're texting and you're making plans through text, just simply ask the question, hey, can we hop on a quick call? I've got a couple of questions for you. And talk on the phone. So many of us today can hide behind screens. We can hide behind, our computers, our phones. And what happens is there's a lot of miscommunications. We can create stories in our heads around that. So 3 things that I'm going to teach you, or just talk about today, so you can write them down and just use them when it comes to text messaging. 1, this might be obvious, but do not text more than you're actually connecting via phone or in person. I don't recommend that at all. I don't recommend it in business. I don't recommend it when it comes to interpersonal relationships. It's a way of staying disconnected. And if you look at your life, are you disconnected in one way, shape, or form? Maybe you are. Maybe that is easier for you. You have a busy life. However, it's a lack of intimacy. And if you're looking to create intimacy, you're listening, you're watching. My thought process is you have a desire in your heart to have intimacy in your life. So by connecting in person, that's the best way to do it. Now you might be thinking, well, Cindy, he's texting me, but he's not asking me out on a date. Well, if he is texting you and he's not asking you out, that might be indicative of where he's at personally in his life, and it has nothing to do with you. I talk to women all the time and they'll say, I made this great connection. We talked on the phone, we met once in person, and he continued texting me, but yet we didn't meet again. So who knows what changed with the circumstances in his life? It doesn't really matter. However, what I'd recommend doing is just being transparent. Like, hey, I find it easier to develop more of a connection by chatting in person, or on the phone. It was so great meeting you for coffee last week. Where are you at with that? I guess I am a little old fashioned and I teach my clients around being that way to a certain degree, but when you think about communication between people and getting together with your friends, one of you may get to lead that and you don't know where the man's been. You don't know if he's been in a relationship or he's been emasculated a lot, or he's, doesn't want to step on your toes and feel, wants you to speak to him because maybe he needs a little bit of reassurance that, hey, yes, you would be interested in seeing him again, or you would be interested in getting to know him better. So maybe it's a gentle push, so to speak. Yeah, Helene just said texting is the lowest form of communication for certain. I don't know about that. It's a means to an end, in my opinion. It's a way to check in. So one, don't take it too seriously and don't take it personally. Can you have fun with text messaging? Sure. But secondly, think about what it is you want. What do you desire? And why do you feel like getting a text message from someone consistently that can, I was getting ahead of myself on my thought, but why does that fuel you if it does? So, it can be exciting to get that text message. You might get butterflies in your stomach or your heart skips a beat. That's great. However, that can also lead to codependency in the sense of, oh, you're dependent on that message to put a smile on your face. That's where, it really does start with you. So actually, as you're getting to know someone, as you're, in the process of dating and getting to know someone, you can kind of see what they're like, what their patterns are around messaging, if they're really interested in it or not. Some people are more interested in it than others, and asking, like, do you like text messaging? I asked different men about how they felt about text messaging, and one gentleman said, I absolutely cannot stand it. I use it as a means to an end. Another one said, I prefer talking on the phone, or seeing each other, spending time together. And and the other one said, yeah, I like to text message because I've got a busy life and I hate talking on the phone. So there you have it, you guys. I would say, I will tell you, just, again, driving that point home as a deep connection point, it doesn't really work because you're creating a relationship that isn't necessarily true. It's kind of like reading a book. Anybody, read a book and then you see the movie, and most of the time you're disappointed, right? Because, well, the book usually has more than the movie, but what you've designed in your mind might be quite a bit different than what the movie truly is. And I don't believe any two people experience a book the same way. And that's why communication is so important, and getting clarity around, okay, so I read this like this. I mean, I'm slightly dyslexic, and I read something from a client last night and I said, nope, to her. And then I read it again and I said, oh, actually, I transposed the words. So actually you are on the right track. And then I added something. It's, that's just, a lot of people read things quickly, or they don't read the whole thing. So you could be taking something personal when it doesn't need to be taken personal. So if things aren't happening to your liking when it comes to text messaging, it's really up to you to ask, what you want to ask. You know, if you'd like to see that person, or if you'd like to see where something's going to go, just ask them. And if they ignore you, so this is a big one, I hear this a lot from women that are dating. If they ignore you and they just keep messaging you, well, it's a big indication that they're not in a place to meet for whatever reason. Maybe they, you know, are not who they say they are, or they're just not in a place to meet for whatever reason. And I believe that's God's protection. So then it's your opportunity to move forward. So it's, you know, just say, okay, stop responding to that person. If they continue to message you and they're not on the same page of meeting, of developing a real connection. And that can be hard when you're in a space of, gosh, you've really enjoyed your texting or email communication with someone. I work with my oldest client. She's 79. She's adorable. And she has developed, you know, without saying too much, she's developed some communication through writing and text messaging. And you know, that has been a, you know, that's maybe held her back from creating a real connection. And we can do that when there's fear around really being with someone, because maybe there's some self-sabotage that happens when you're in front of a person because of emotional triggers. So I help women all the time around emotional triggers, the things that we read into and why you're being triggered. So I uncover what's underneath that for you and help you to heal and move forward. Now, if someone, you know, if you're communicating with someone and they're not willing to meet you there, they're not willing to communicate from the place, and maybe you're not going to communicate the same way because men are different than women in the way they communicate. But if he's not willing to go where you're trying to go, then it's an indication of they're not necessarily a fit. They can seem great, they can seem to have a lot of the qualities that you're seeking, but there could be a disconnect. Now, not everything needs to connect all the time. I hope I don't sound like a walking contradiction around this, but it's just important to be open around where you're at, what you're experiencing, and not project what you're experiencing through them. So meaning, you know, accusing someone, you know, you didn't do this, or you know, you're always showing up late. You know, really putting it back on you to what you're experiencing. Gosh, I noticed that, you know, Friday nights when we get together, I'm always so happy to see you. Hey, Julia. And, you know, I've noticed that we're, you know, we make reservations, or, you know, I'm used to seeing you, you know, I like to see you at 6, or we plan on 6 and it ends up being 6:30, 6:45. Could be a variety of different reasons, most of which has nothing to do with you. Maybe that person wants to be there at 6, but they get caught up. And, you know, saying, hey, would it be easier to get together at 7? And sometimes the other person needs a bridge. They need a bridge, so because they're trying to make you happy. And, you know, ladies, men love to find ways to make you happy through the simplest thing to make you smile, or, you know, it could be anything. And when you express that, like, hey, it's great. It gives me a little bit more time to take care of the things that I need to take care of. And I'm excited to get to spend the evening with you. So making sure that you're communicating effectively. And, you know, I had a client of mine that's trying to make out of town plans with someone that she's dating. And there was some clarification that needed to be had as far as accommodations was concerned. And I suggested right away, get on the phone. Get on the phone with this person so that you can make sure that you're on the same page and express what your wants, needs, and desires are in order to feel safe in the situation. That's really important. And a guy that takes you seriously, so I'm going to circle this back around to text messaging, and I hope this helps you, that if he's really interested in getting to know you, he's going to want to do the things to make you feel safe and feel comfortable. And when he's in his communication with you, he's going to ask you about your day, what was relevant to you, and he's going to want to, well, for women, we like to connect, but he's going to want to try to connect with you in the way that makes you, in his way of knowing, that makes you feel good. If he's not, the opposite will happen. He might share, oh yeah, this and this and this and that happened, and I'm going to Lakers game tomorrow. Awesome. By the way, I'm doing really well. So you can get a really good idea of who a person is, how they show up when it comes to dating and relationship through text message, and if they are really interested in getting to know you. So that is key. I just wouldn't use it as a form of major communication when it comes to relationship. What did you say, Julie? Totally. My husband always tells me about, what makes me happy. Yeah, so true. Awesome. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. 1, just don't use it as a major form of communication. Turn it into a phone call. And 3, if someone is just continuing to text message or communicate, and this is especially when it comes to online or dating app messages, if it's not turning into a meeting, which is obviously what you want, then you want to just let them go. There's plenty of fish in the sea, as they say, and you want to make sure that you're connecting with someone that's on the same page as you, and it takes time to tell if they're really invested in you and you're invested in them. So that's all for me today. Let me know if you have questions, comments, and please share this with anyone that you feel needs to hear this. You can, share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram. I feel very blessed that I get to be here with you guys today. I love your questions. I love your comments, and I will see you guys tomorrow as we talk about another juicy topic around, is he a narcissist or a charmer? So we'll talk about the differences between the two and what to look out for. Sending lots of love. Have an amazing rest of your day. Bye, everyone. Goodbye, Instagram.